Hi. So for me, it's the actual New Year. You can hear explodies blasting. Um, the clock turned over to midnight for me while I was in the movie theater. I went and saw Star Wars 9, Episode Skywalker, the one in which whoa, what was going on with the camera there? The one in which it all came to a conclusion, and I fucking liked it a lot. Early on in the movie, it was kind of hard. It was kind of difficult to pay attention to everything that was going on because there was so much and it was so fast. But by the time things kind of stabilized a little bit, I felt like they had to jump right smack into it, you know? And there's just like, you're in outer space and there's fucking, everybody's warping real fast and there's chaos and, oh yeah, I'm wearing my green shirt. I hadn't watched episode 8 recently. I'm gonna go through and rewatch like literally all of them pretty soon. I'm not a Star Wars super fan anymore. I think that the series has a lot of problems, and it did seem like, okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. It's one of those things that I feel like I shouldn't have to say, but the community, the Star Wars community, is a real shitty turd of a community. A real gross butt shit slop. A group of people. They're as bad as any fandom has ever been. Probably the worst, actually. Maybe not Rick and Morty levels, but like trying everything they can think of to be right there with them. But I really liked episode 8. I liked that it took all the things that were staples of Star Wars that were just kind of ridiculous and foolish and like, and pointed out how silly they are. The constant need for someone to be on a suicide mission, the constant need to sacrifice everything to do something that there's a better, more thoughtful approach to actually doing. The blood being the only valuable thing. You know, in episode 8, they kind of started to say that, like, maybe there's more to people than their lineage. Maybe there's a little bit more to everyone than just their genetics or whatever. And episode 9 worked extremely hard to undo that, which, you know, whatever. I feel like because of the fandom, because of the ownership that the audience has over these properties, there's a sense that they have to kind of like succumb to those demands or those criticisms instead of just fucking making a statement about this being the future and not just a reiteration of the past. I think the presence of Emperor Palpatine is kind of like almost the most indicative thing of the kind of cowardice I feel in episode 9. It feels like they made a big bold claim, like, you know, the whole like tagline of like let the past die. And then they said, you know what's even better than letting the past die? Letting the past decide literally every aspect of everything for this franchise. People didn't like it, and I think, you know, Rain Johnson of Knives Out fame, I 100% support that point of view, the let the past die point of view. I've supported it in other ways than just Star Wars. I support it in, you know, people not using culture or ethnicity or anything to define themselves. We're getting table tech legs no matter what. That one's only 30. We might be able to get that too. Not having people be defined by a series of things that their ancestors did or anything like that. That's like, that to me is ultra mega doo-doo shitty. Like, I think that it's too easy for everything to be like, everyone to be fucking related, everyone to, this is a galaxy. This is the hugest amount of space imaginable. And basically, the whole Star Wars franchise has been everyone being blood related to literally everyone else if they have any impact in the story, this galactic war. Oops. Well, okay, that's not as good as I was hoping for, but it's fine. And it felt like they were resting on the same idea. It was kind of cool in the original Star Wars trilogy when you found out that Luke and Leia were related and Luke and Vader were related, but then it's like, you know, it kind of just feels like, well, yeah, we got to make them related because they're the main characters in the story. But what it didn't feel like was it made any fucking sense for people from such disparate paths to just fall into the situation together with no, like, this force of blood, this, like, I don't know, it to me, it was one of the things I always kind of hated the most, and I think it's from a personal reason, that I think it's an excuse a lot of people make. They behave a certain way because they say, well, you know, I dated this girl who was a quarter Italian, and every time she acted a certain way, you know, it was the Italian in her. She liked certain food because she's Italian. She likes this because she's Italian. She didn't grow up in a very Italian family. Her parents were white bread as hell, like just like waspy Americans. Like they were less Italian. I mean, and you know, if we want to get down into it, I'm as Italian as she is, and I never let that be a deciding element of my personality. And I think that, like, it's corny. It's easy, and it's letting something external determine everything about you. However, they kind of went back to that with in some clever and actually pretty surprising ways with Rise of Skywalker. But even still, it kind of felt like cowardice to me. It felt like they bent over. I mean, I know that Disney is a moneymaker more than anything else. They don't care about legacy if it's gonna fucking shoot them in the back, or if it's gonna hurt their wallets. Not even shoot them in the back, just like, if it's gonna lose them some money, they're willing to say, like, yeah, that whole last movie, fuck it. It wasn't profitable, people didn't like it, so let's get that out of here. Let's cut that out of the equation and just stick with what people like. And I think that that's, like, pretty fundamentally cheesy. You know? Like, I think that that's that unwillingness to stick to their guns, to make a bold decision that maybe doesn't appeal to as many people, and say, hey, we want to take this in a new direction, and go strong in that new direction, you know? I don't know, but, you know, it's a fucking giant corporation. The committee is going to say, like, hey, we're hurting the image of Star Wars. Solo didn't do so well after Last Jedi came out. Maybe we should scrap the whole idea of doing something different and just repeat. And that's why they got Abrams back. I like J.J. Abrams, I really do. I liked The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens. But he is a reiterator. He's a rehasher. His whole thing, his whole motivation, I feel like, is to find the best that has been done before and do that. Like, he's not a super inventive director. Super 8 was Goonies. Star Wars Force Awakens was Star Wars A New Hope. It's just, it feels like he doesn't want to innovate. He wants to reiterate. And, you know, a lot of people are complaining about the new movie as being kind of like an overfull mess. But I think if people wanted... People have complained about every one of these movies for exactly opposite reasons. They complained about The Force Awakens for being too similar. They complain about The Last Jedi for being too different and not understanding what makes a Star Wars movie work, what people are looking for when they think of Star Wars. And they complain about this one for being kind of all over the place and a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. And it's just like, just shut the fuck up. Like, the way I feel about it is everyone brings too much into Star Wars. It is a brand with too big of a freaking name. And people aren't watching Star Wars. They're watching their twisted, unreal image of Star Wars. I talked to Nate about it today, which is why I went and saw the movie. He said he'd seen it and he really liked it. And I was like, you know, I liked it too. I actually really even liked The Last Jedi a lot. And I feel like I'm not allowed to. I'm not supposed to like The Last Jedi. But I think that everybody brings so much of themselves to these fucking movies, so much of what they are convinced Star Wars is, and it fucking sucks because it does not allow the actual movie to exist. Like, it's so goddamn tedious to hear people just bitch and bitch and bitch and complain about it being either too derivative or not derivative enough. And I just want to say, like, shut up and watch the movie. Enjoy it 100% as its own thing and don't worry about how it betrays some previous identity. And that's fundamentally what I think Episode 8 was saying, was let the past die. Live, oh boy. Live fully in the present. It's time to stop being beholden to what's come before us and to start... Oh, man, that's not that great. To start existing 100% in the presence. The one thing I will say is no movies have done battles like the prequels. This is the only thing that I really love about the prequels, is the lightsaber battles were more martial arts focused than knights focused. It felt more like... It felt more beholden to the acrobatics of, you know... I don't know, Chinese and Japanese movies than the choreography of just, like, chivalry and medieval combat. What is he stuck on? Oh. Whoa! That was close. I don't know. And these ones really felt that kind of stilted, more old school combat. But that's what you got in the original trilogy, and I think this is still more or less related to that in terms of battle choreography. The fight scene in Snoke's chamber in Episode 8 is the closest we got to it, but it seemed like, again, they did everything in their power to distance themselves from that movie. which is a bummer. I think that they did what they can to say, like, hey, we're not like 8, and still give us some things that didn't completely, like, wipe it off. Like, the story tries to at least address that stuff, you know? And I respect it for that, but it does take a kind of cowardly approach to it, and it bums me out. Because I thought that that was, like, a pretty brave and honest direction to take a series that is just this, it is stale. It's space fucking ninjas, and it's stale. I mean, it's like this weird religious story about people with magic wizard powers that also sword fight like ninjas and have telekinesis and stuff. Like, and on top of that, it's like, I guess it is now fundamentally the story of blood being the strongest force in the galaxy, which to me is like ultimately boring. They kind of do it both ways in this one. Blood is and isn't all important, but it doesn't have the straight, like, the guts that I felt was present in 8. And I might be the only person in the world that prefers a gutsy new approach over, I don't know, I mean, people hate rehash, people hate gutsy new. It's, people hate anything that doesn't line up with this being the most perfect trilogy of all time. Which, maybe they have every right to, because it's not Disney's, it's Lucas's. But people were complaining when Lucas made the prequels and focused on the Goofy and the puppets and the toys and merchandising and shit like that. So they complained either way. I have more problems with the prequels than I do with this sequel trilogy by far. And, you know, I think part of that is because I went in with some pretty extreme... I was a huge Star Wars fan when the prequels came out, and I think that a big part of the reason that I dropped off of that was because of some of the issues I had with the prequels. So, you know, I'm not saying that I'm, like, somehow immune to doing the same thing, but... Whoa, that was weird. But... I don't know. I wish the courage that went into 8 continued in 9. Just for me. Because it's my Star Wars, it's not yours. Dang, this is super shitty. I do not want to have to go through this room, but I guess I kind of have to. I have to go through the Fusilier fight holding onto this goddamn thing. Cool. Well, forgot about the tripled pushback being hugely problematic. That sucks. But, you know, fucking whatever. Oh, it's right there? What a perfect spot for it. This game. This game and its sense of humor. Ooh. Okay, well, let's go fight this guy. Then we'll open up all of that. We should still have a blank for it. Gonna be a shorter New Year's Day video. It's like barely after midnight, by the way. The movie ended at 12:15. Jackie called me from work right at midnight, and I couldn't answer because it was in like the closing moments of the trilogy. I don't know, dude. I really liked it. I really like the cast. I really like Oscar Isaac as Poe Dameron. I really like that every character somehow had a complete arc, while so much was taking place. Like it's kind of an accomplishment in condensed storytelling. Like they were able to get a fucking lot in a 2.5-hour movie, which is, you know, it's in its own way pretty goddamn impressive. Regardless of, you know, what anybody takes from the movie on a personal level. But I think that people should watch it. I think people should stop bringing their own bullshit into movies. And I think people should really just cut out the fandom nonsense. I saw a really great post equating angry boy Kylo Ren, who's stuck on the past, who's just living in the shadow of Vader, to the audience, and every fucking tantrum he throws about, like, things not being the way they should be. Essentially being, like, the endless bitching of the fandom. And I don't want to say that I agree wholeheartedly, but I really do. It's just obnoxious to have everything, oh boy, everything be in the hands of shitty little turd babies. I'm tired of it. Like, if complaining is your MO, you don't get to be the voice that speaks on behalf of stuff. Like, I don't know. Oh man, that's not a good one. Still kind of struggling for a weapon here. Oops. But I don't know. Maybe, you know, you're not allowed to complain about complainers, because then you're complaining and it's the whole blah, 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 blah. How are you better if you're, you know, doing the same thing? But it is the most frustrating thing in the world for the whiniest voices to also be the loudest. Because it makes you feel like a fool sometimes for appreciating something when everybody else just, they beelines to the fucking complaint department. Like, I have a lot of, you know, I've known a lot of people for a long time who never got over that, like, the best thing to do is bitch because nothing's perfect. And while I get that there are valid complaints to things out there, and you shouldn't be, you know, a closed-eyes optimist about everything, sometimes it really, like, does you a lot of good to find the good in shit. Instead, because you're not going to gain anything by being a whiny little twat. Like, you're going to be a Kylo Ren. You're going to be punching your Darth Vader helmet into the wall. And you're going to think that it makes you really, really cool to be the guy that, like, points out how flawed everything is. But it stinks. Like, it stinks and it's childish. Whoops. Oh. I don't know. There's so much good. There's so much being made that's being made well and is fueled by the passion of so many people. It's so easy to hate, and it's so obnoxious too. I don't know. Different S strokes for different folks. I think one of the things that I really want to take from the movie more than anything else is the kind of majesty that the Star Wars universe has. It is a weird marriage of the very, very big and the super personal. Like, there's a moment when one of the characters uses a force power, and it very, very highly shows how, like, I've always kind of wondered, like, people throwing shit around with their mind, how does that compete on the scale of Star Destroyers? How is the Emperor and Darth Vader, how are they threatening to people who can just blow up planets? And that's something that's never really been addressed. They have power, but they have power on a personal level, on a face-to-face level. And, you know, there was a moment that it kind of felt a little silly because it felt like a little OP, but, like, that's what was needed. They needed to show that this shit gets heavy in the right hands. And it was nice. It was really effective. It showed up quickly. It was used at a critical moment, and it was effective as shit. And I think one of the things these movies were trying to do is really show that the Force isn't just, you know, the tools of some babies in one-on-one combat. It's actually something much, much bigger. Yipes. I got Gorgie gazed. And it was cool. It didn't feel ridiculous either. Like, it felt over the top in a very good way. But yeah, I don't know. I give this movie like a very solid, please go watch it. If you've ever liked Star Wars, go watch it. It does have a little bit of the sense of caving under the pressure of the fandom, which I guess is a commercial necessity in this fucking crazy baby emboldening world that we live in. But I don't know, 2019 for a lot of people I think is the year that fans got screwed in the minds of fans, with Game of Thrones being bad apparently. I don't know, I never watched it, so I don't really have a horse in this race. But people complain about this. I think people like The Mandalorian because it's like, it's more westerny. It feels like a cowboy romp to them, and so they don't really care. They're not as beholden. It's not a mainline numbered Star Wars. People liked Rogue One, but people seem to have, for various reasons, various opposing reasons, hated everything that had to do with the trilogy, the sequel trilogy. And I just don't care. Like, I like it. I remember enjoying aspects of the prequels, and I fucking enjoy aspects of the sequels, and I just want people to look at the good, look at the crazy amount of good that has come out of these movies, and just shut up. You just shut up about how it didn't meet their expectations. Like, maybe that's the wrong approach. Maybe an open dialogue. But it's not an open dialogue. See, that's the problem I have with it. It's not a dialogue where you're allowed to be on either side. It's a fucking one-sided, hate-fueled dialogue in which either you hate it because everyone else hates it, or you shut up. And I think right now, I want I want the haters to just, the people who thrive on being contrarian. It's not even contrarian anymore because it's the popular opinion, but who thrive on nitpicking and problem finding, to just take a breather. Like, take 10 and let people enjoy something for a little fucking while. I don't know. But that's me, and I'm probably a shill in some people's minds for having gone and seen the movie and left, you know, having enjoyed myself. I think everybody embodied their characters really, really well, too. Like, it was creepy weird seeing so much Carrie Fisher, but I think that was kind of expected. There was so much in the last one. Don't destroy all the... Okay. There's a lot of Princess Leia in this, and the Uncanny Valley is not super present. They do a really good job, but it's still there. And it makes my stomach turn a little bit. The only, you know what would actually have worked in the movie's favor is, like, if she only had scenes in the movie with people in costumes, like, or not costumes, but like puppets and like aliens and stuff, because every time the camera went directly from her digitally produced face to like Daisy Ridley's face, I was just like, oh, I can see everything that's phony about the way that she looks. But if it had gone from like a kind of still-faced puppet to a CGI face, I think I would have been like, yeah, they did an incredible job. It was so weird when they would move the camera away from her face to somebody else's hands, which they did a couple of times, because they're like, okay, it costs us $10 million per second to have this CGI face on screen. Let's make it brief. I don't know. It's an enjoyable movie. It really is. And if you just watch it wholly detached from the dialogue about the movie, then I think that for the most part people are going to enjoy it. But if you hated the other ones because they weren't, or they weren't enough, or were too much Star Wars, then you're insatiable. And I guess I just don't care about your opinion. I don't know. Just watch the movie. Like, I wish that the exact same movie could come out with, like, different names for everything. I wish the movie could come out independent of the history of Star Wars, and people watch it and they would be fucking floored. Like, it'd be the greatest story ever told. Maybe not. Maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it would be like so much better received. And I know I do the same thing too. I hated Wolf of Wall Street more than I would have if it was just a regular movie I was watching, because it was a Scorsese, and a Scorsese is supposed to be X or Y or whatever. But it didn't feel quite like that. It just feels like, I'm not comparing a Scorsese movie with a Star Wars movie either, but I do think that people are a little bit too beholden to the past, and if they could watch this movie and just let the past die, it would be a movie that people enjoyed, instead of one that they constantly have to defame, you know? Can't use that. Ooh, scary. Teapot is mostly bad. Do I need to sell anything else? That's not really worth that much money. God. I'll take a little curse. And triple shot on this one is actually great. Ooh, baby. You actually get to open every chest on this floor. Oh, love. Absolute hate. Do I hate it though? Yes, I hate it. I'm not keeping a fucking trash can, are you kidding me? Let's spend 83 on this. You know how I feel about Gun Night. Was it the last run where I got 2 pieces? You do. It. It is really nice seeing those all perfectly home in on one another. Or home in on the same target, I guess I should say. Wow. Crap. Crappy. Crap. Wow, that was some really good dodging. A key! Is that my first regular room key of the entire run? $122? Maybe I will. Ooh! Probably I won't. Ooh! Okay. 49. And I can steal. I gotta do it. It puts me at 2 curse. She's not. Okay, I gotta refill that. Which means I lose my thing, but we're pretty much past that, right? Neat. Go back, we'll steal Explodiodes. Man, that is a loud pop. It's a voluminous dad. That's not what I meant. You know what I meant. And then we'll just buy flak bullets. Get out of here, kids. Now, time for loud pop. That's 3 curse. 49, we got 50. We are good. That is the way to do it. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I should talk about at least one other thing besides the movie. It's New Year's Day here in regular time, and it feels really good to have started a new year. I'm like, it doesn't sound like it right now because because I took some Dayquil and I'm actually on the mend, but like I'm kind of dealing with a cold right now, which is like a shitty way to start a new year, but it's also the beginning of winter, so of course. But I don't know, everything just kind of feels good. Like, I'm not trying to be like over positive. I'm not trying to like oversell my life as this like this wonder or anything right now, but like I genuinely feel good. I love my wife. I have some good friends. I'm not feeling like the kind of, you know, friendless isolation that I sometimes feel now that I don't drink. I really feel more like a deeper connection to my close friends than a need to have a lot of, or even more than zero, kind of, you know, tier 2 friends. And I love it. Like, my stream is kind of, you know, I'm kind of taking it a little bit lighter. I'm not being upset that the stream is not pulling in numbers anymore. That could change, like, tomorrow. I could be like, oh, this other guy just started a stream, and look at him. He's big, famous James. And, you know, we'll see. But, like, I think I like having a pretty low-key thing with fewer expectations than I would have if I were Mr. Boombastic, all fantastic. Charm rounds, good enough. Good enough, governor. Well, maybe? I don't know. I just, like, I think this is the first time that I'm not, like, trying to prove any New Year thing. I don't feel like... I feel like if I continue in a path similar to where things are right now, then I'll have a good year, instead of needing to, like, decide what's working and how I can be unlike the 2019 version of myself. I can kind of just, oh man, that's not going to do it. Continue as is and be happy. And again, that sounds, I'm sure that is going to come off as cocky to a lot of people, because I don't know, because confidence is something that people hate, and it's not egotism. I really just, I feel like I kind of lucked into a situation that is giving me the things that I didn't know were goals, you know? Like, I'm happy with my marriage and my location and my job and my finances and all these things. I'm not, I don't think that anybody who doesn't have my level of success, or whatever you want to call it, is like a slob or a loser or anything. I don't know. I think the only person I'm comparing things to right now is me, and I think things are looking pretty good compared to past me, you know? Simple as that. I hope that the future for everyone is more in line with where they expect it to be. It would have been nice if I had gotten here before, you know, the year that I'm turning 35, and it could go away as quickly as an accident. Like, the little bit of money I have saved, the things that I'm paying on, they could be stripped from me in a moment. So again, I'm not being, you know, a cocky little self-important guy, because I understand that it is nebulous. It is potentially short-lived in the most terrifying way, but I'm really happy that things are kind of lining up for me, and I think that that's a great... I feel like I have, you know, I've lucked into a pretty good situation for the beginning of this newfangled decade. And, you know, I got some pretty big hopes that things are going to get better for a lot of people going forward. Just because there's a lot of, like, potential change that I really hope becomes actual change. 2019 wasn't the best year for the world. It was a pretty good year for me, but it wasn't the best year for the US. I guess it wasn't as bad as 2018 was for the US. But or fucking 2017. But there's some promise on the horizon, man. There are two really, really good candidates for president. Bernie Sanders is my big, gigantic number one. Andrew Yang is a great forward-thinking mind who, you know, I know it never works this way, but if there was a freaking Sanders in position 1, Yang in position 2 possibility, I would be ecstatic with that. I would be so satisfied with them as like running mates or something. It's not gonna happen, but man, it would have been. It's a cool thing to think about. Whoops. Walked right back into that one. Oh. I had to kind of get in there quickly because the size of my bullets is going to make it pretty difficult. But I think flak bullets actually were the big help there. Alright. Explosive shots are making it pretty hard to keep tables intact. I'm gonna use this freaking thing on the Lich and see if he loses my position. Yes. Yesterday. Man, I don't know. Does anyone else, like, I know there's no way for anybody to respond to this, so I'm just kind of talking as if there is. But does anyone else just think that, like as scary as things get, as negative as things can become, the future is this is like boundless expanse of potential. Like, it doesn't matter how bad things look ever, because it can change. Like, I know that it just means that I'm being like really hopeful, and that kind of optimism seems to be toxic in the minds of a lot of people, especially people who are suffering through depression or in situations that are not currently ideal for them. But I've been in those situations, and I felt the shit. I felt the suck that existence had on an individual's like soul. But it changes. Things become different things. You know, it goes away. The dark times are brief. And if they're not brief, they're still temporary. As long as you just keep powering through, there's always... Ah! That was really scary. There's always, you know, a new potential. Oh, well, that was a shit time to do it. At least it took these guys' attention off of me. It is very hard to tell what the fuck's going on. I don't know. Oh, I got hit by the last bullet. And I was even thinking, I should blank this one. I got 4 blanks. And then I did not do that. Did not do that. I don't know. I think that, like, maybe it's really just literally exercise has made me feel better. Like, I know that's the greatest complaint of the subreddit thinks I'm cured, where, you know, there's people who are dealing with actual, like, depression and stuff. They don't want to hear people tell them to just go outside. And they're fucking right. You need medical help to get you in a position where you can even get to the point where thinking of doing those things is a possibility. However, there's study after fucking study from the people who give the medical help saying that, like, doing those things speeds recovery. And, you know, sometimes it's depression itself warping people's minds, convincing them that the only thing that could change the situation for them is one path or another. And I get it. That's why depression is such an insidious thing, because it makes you believe that everything else is a lie. It's like depression and anxiety, they feed off of cynicism, they feed off of fear, they feed off of the things that make it impossible to see anything else as a path. And I hope that eventually more people, more of my friends, can take what might sound to them as dumb advice and do positive things and let that take over the whole kind of fake it till you make it thing. Like, it sounds so stupid, but it fucking works. And I think that 2020 is going to be the year of continuing to just go towards whatever idea of making it I have. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the goal is, but I'm doing everything to be more positive and to hope that leads to more positive. It's a self-feeding system instead of a self-defeating. I don't know. Anyway, 251. Only got a lead god, but kiss my buns. It was great. Goodbye.